All right, welcome to chapter 12. Today, Michael is leading the group, and well, I let Michael do the summary. You did a good summary in the questions, so yeah.
I thought I would read what I had written out. So in chapter 12, Fred is accompanying Kushna, who sets out to help a woman who has been pulled back to earth by the love cords of grieving friends. It's Fred's first trip back across the mists since his own passage. It's dark and cold, and he can't see anything. Kushna explains it's because his standpoint has changed. He has become invisible to Earth and the physical, and those of Earth have become equally imperceptible to him. Kushna says Fred will have to look for Earth now as a visionary, intangible, almost immaterial world, even as he, as a spirit, remains substantial and real. Kushna says this state of mortals and spirits being generally invisible to each other is, quote, due to the fact that the point of sensation of resistance is different, end quote. Did that make sense to anybody?
Yeah, let's talk about this. I feel like there's some really good ideas here that we could grasp about this quotation. So ideas, anyone have? Let's wrestle with this one. Virginia?
I think I might have heard this actually in one of the Mary's book groups. I can't remember now where I heard it from, but it made sense to me that when you're on Earth and in the physical world, that is what feels real to you. So you have a more difficult time seeing spirit. But when you're in spirit, it's exactly the same thing. You have an easier time. You can see the spirits and the spiritual world, but it's harder to see those that are in physical and see their physical bodies. Like that makes sense to me, even though I don't see spirits very well.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's the only way I could make sense of it.
Michaela?
Yeah, I had a similar understanding to Virginia, but what I took from the actual chapter was there was one section where Kushna was saying that it arises from want of thought. And so I looked up what that meant. And it's what I sort of take it as is the beliefs that we have on Earth, we take into the spirit form. So we haven't lost our beliefs about there is this great divide that cannot be bridged and all these different beliefs around the different forms. And because we're still holding those beliefs, it ends up just being in the opposite direction. And also there's another bit that said in the book that says the purple haze which wraps itself around the shoulders of a mountain and offers no more resistance. So the way that I kind of took that was that the resistance is minimal. So you have to choose to push through your beliefs to be able to see the other side. That was what I was able to consider.
Selena?
I'm still not muted. Well, I kind of had trouble with the spirit. So if it's so vague, like why are they so intent on being earthbound and being here? Like what attracts them? Like you can't see anything. Like I got a little confused by that because it sounds like they're very motivated to influence us because they get something out of it. But maybe that's just because of the addictions that are pulling them, and Aphraar doesn't have any. So that's why he can't feel any of it, any of the pull or any of the, I don't know, because it feels to me like earthbound spirits can see us and know what we're doing and feel what we're doing and influence us and try and get their addictions met through us. So they obviously see something, feel something. And I think the one thing that came to my mind when I was reading this point of resistance is different. It's kind of like when that story about, the natives can't see the ships because they have no concept of it. Like they have no
Right.
nowhere to put that concept. Like it's
Right.
just not, it can't be real because it's just not present in their
Part of
consciousness
your
at all
part
in
of your
any way, shape,
concept.
or form. Yeah, they can't. Maybe it's something like that.
Okay. Thank you. Michael.
What Selena said was interesting to me because an earthbound spirit will see people on earth and won't see higher spirits.
Yeah.
So they're in the spirit world like Fred is, but they are oriented towards earth and they see the material.
Right.
Although they could still walk through a wall, the resistance is, there's not a physical barrier there.
But they can't see the whole surrounding. If you think about what happened with the Harvest of Jealousy, remember when she got pulled back to a soulmate, she could see hazy outline of somebody else around him talking to him, but she could see him clearly, but there was no awareness of the surrounding, who was talking to him. So it's still hazy. So I think like what Michaela said is that desire and the emotional. I do have an idea what resistance means here, but I'm just going to wait till everyone say it. Virginia? Oh, sorry, Michael, go ahead.
It just reminds me of, isn't there some scientific law that the act of observing something changes it?
Right.
So maybe it's related. Maybe there's some relation there.
I like where you're going. Thank you. Virginia.
This that Selena brought up about the earthbound spirits. I always I always thought that the earthbound spirits, they rejected being in the spiritual world.
Some, I think, not all.
I thought that they were rejecting where they were needing to go to, not wanting to be in the spiritual world. So does that keep them more connected with the physical world?
I mean, I'm in no position to know. I'm just guessing that there's a huge gradient of depending on your circumstance.
Yeah, I thought that's
I don't
maybe
think
that.
it's true. I don't think it's true for everyone.
They would be able to see more and be able to connect more to the physical world because they're not accepting, they're rejecting the spiritual world.
Right.
But I don't know, does anybody know for sure?
Well, I mean, I don't think we can know because we're still in the physical. And then we need to have past, and then we need to have our teachers explain a whole bunch of things and show us stuff. I think that's way past my level of understanding at this point to get an answer. But I can say that there's got to be all kind of situation on how you passed, what situation you passed in would dictate what happens. To even know that you passed, to even know that you've even believed in an afterworld. I mean, who knows? It could be 3 million variations in there. Yeah, thank you. Was it Michaela first? I think.
Just in regards to the earthbound spirits, I was thinking further on in the chapter, it talks about the sympathetic feeling, and I feel like that's what it's related to. And also, you talked about that example in the book where in the Harvest of Jealousy, and it's like it's hazy all around, but because she's still so driven by her addiction, that is what she's getting, so that's why she's staying.
See,
yeah, that was what I was thinking.
Good point. Thank you. Selena?
In Wanders in the Spirit Land, he kind of makes an interesting point on people that get worn out being earthbound and they start having to go back to the spirit world and go through their compensation, but they still manage to come back. Like they kind of go back and forth. Wow. Like there's like you say, gradients, like there's no cut and dried experience for anybody. And that actually was a good book for kind of showing that how varied people's experiences were.
Yeah. But there's some kind of a scientific law that governs all of those. It's not like a hazy, just anything goes. It's specific reasons why those things are allowed or able to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So my guess about the resistance is that when I'm here in the physical form, things have resistance. So this is my perspective. You know, I touch something, there's a resistance. There's resistance in the walls, there's a resistance in the light. There's like, that's my concept of what I feel resistance to in my environment orients me to what I feel is real. And so when you're in spirit form, you are having resistance in the base of the boundaries of your realm, which then will orient your reality to what is real. So that's where I went with the concept of resistance. So because my resistance is oriented to here in the physical, I believe this is real and that isn't. And then vice versa. That was my idea. But I like the idea of that if we start to, if we, like what Michaela said, the idea that when we start to have, which is what the book is helping us, have this tangible perspective of spirit world, and doing mediumship, you can also kind of start to see how tangible that realm is. Then I think you'll start to physically see both realms as real. That's my guess so far. So I really like that we're exploring this concept, because this will change our ability to feel our guides and to feel the spirits around us more tangibly, and then also maybe to be able to then hear them, receive knowledge from them. You know, there's so much benefits to that. Yeah. Michael?
Yeah, when I answered the question, I was thinking along your lines that the standpoint is what dimension we're in. And so it would be like an echo. If I put out a sonar or a radar, what it would bounce back. So whatever reality I'm in, that, and maybe this is opening our spiritual eyes metaphorically, is this way.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But that I believe that there are specific laws that define all of these interactions, and they're mathematical, they're concrete, they are points of resistance. They create resistance for us so that we can define ourselves against that resistance. It's like, you know, at some point we realize we can't just go and skip into second gear. We feel a resistance. There's like a pushback. These kind of there's something that defines these experiences, and that we can trust and relax in how tangible and practical they are, so that we're not as afraid of what happens in the spirit world, because everything looks tangible and cloudy, and so we have a lot of fear because we think that anything goes, and vice versa. But then, like what somebody said, was it Michaela, the sympathetic force is a very strong force, but it's a force. It's something that's like electromagneticity. You can't see it, but it's there, it exists, it has a force, and you can define reality based on it. You can create fast-moving train based on the force of electromagnetism. So imagine sympathetic attraction being something that's also very, very scientific. Yeah, Michaela.
I was just considering then, in regards to all this, that the soul can experience all aspects ultimately of the spiritual and the physical. So we were created to know all of it. So it's really just our own injuries and our false beliefs that are stopping us from experiencing all of it, I would imagine. Yeah.
Cool, right? So cool. Should we move on to the next part of the question, Michael?
Oh, so as Krishna gestures, the revelation unfolds. And I noticed that unfolding word popping up a few times here. So the revelation unfolds itself in Fred, and he begins to perceive the outlines of objects around them. He is greatly surprised and exclaims, "How can I understand it?" You must be patient, Kushna replies. A student does not understand a language as soon as he has mastered the alphabet, but that does not hinder him from continuing his study if he is wise. No man knows how he is able to think, but every searcher for knowledge is glad to use his brain, in spite of the explanation which lies beyond his reach. So we must act in our development. Every successive stage through which we pass will have its mystery, but each in turn will be solved and give place to greater problems until all our powers, having been unfolded, we shall see God. If our friends on earth would recognize this, they would fulfill their mission better. What do we think of that? And how does that influence our faith?
Let's start with how many people are upset or impatient with their seemingly lack of progress. Okay, so we could start with that and see how Kushna would have viewed that. How would he have been, how if that passage was Kushna talking to us, you know? So let's start with Jill.
Okay, so yeah, I get frustrated, very frustrated sometimes with my lack of progress. However, I have recently been aware that I'm on deeper emotions. Like, I don't know if it's just that I can feel that they're deeper emotions or deeper injuries, I guess, wrong word, but deeper injuries. Like, I wouldn't be able to handle some of the stuff that I went through recently 2 years ago or 3 years ago, right? So it's like you have to go through it step by step by step. Like, you have to unfold it, right? It's like you unfold a blanket. It's like one fold. Okay, what does that look like? What does that feel like? Unfold another one, I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but
Okay.
yeah, I did notice that recently that that I'm on a different sort of layer of injuries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Judith?
I really like that quote about the alphabet, because when you think about it, we kind of know the alphabet and we're learning it. And like myself personally, and maybe other people, are so hard on ourselves because we're not getting it,
Yeah.
Like I'm learning it intellectually, but I haven't felt it all emotionally.
Yeah.
And so it just never seems to work. Like I'm always in the same spot. But the only thing I think, yeah, but I can see is that this message keeps on coming up again and again and again.
Okay.
Okay. This whole thing is just every time I go out to look at something or what we're studying right now, it's the same message about not being so hard on ourselves.
Okay. That the process, yeah, I'll wait till everyone shared. Michaela?
What this quote reminded me of is recently I've been having these awarenesses of that it's just an emotional experience. It's just a feeling of overwhelm, and there's nothing wrong in that process. That's actually a good direction to go. But because on earth we're so obsessed with knowing the answer, we're obsessed with being perfect, being in control, and being numb. It's a scary thing, but once we shift through those false beliefs around it, we'll just naturally be in flow with the mystery, and there won't be any resistance or fear around it.
Thank you. And what do you think are some of the childhood experiences we need to release so that we don't have this block? So that we can say, well, I'm just learning the alphabets, and then I'll learn to read, and then I'll learn to comprehend what I'm reading, and then I'll make other decisions based on what I'm reading. I mean, how can we be like that with what we're learning now from the books? we're just learning alphabets. So what do you think happened in our childhood that we're going to have to confront so that we don't have that perspective, the block? Michaela, go ahead, and then Jill.
I just recognized recently for me that I'm terrified of making mistakes, and I'm also terrified of not knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you, there are usually two things. One is our parents projecting at us, you should have known. And two is the hurt child saying, because you're blaming yourself, if I had known what was happening, I could have stopped it. And actually you couldn't have. But that's a kind of a false sense of control the child is trying to create. If only I had known this was going on, if only I had known how things were going to progress, I could have done something about it. It's a way of continuing to blame yourself instead of seeing that actually the environment set it up in such a way to make sure you were not in control. That was the whole point of it all. That's different. Yeah. So we'll see what gets triggered there. Jill.
For me personally, it was a lot of my parents' expectations on what I should learn. And that I was not smart enough to learn it. And also that there's a lot there. I mean, there's a lot that, you know, being a female had some limitations on what I should learn. So I don't know what it would, other than just, you know, going back and experiencing those, the hurt and all of that. I'm not too sure what we can do for it. Was that,
Yeah.
that was the question, right? Yeah. I guess recognizing that a lot of our learning experiences, because our learning experiences happened when we were, you know, as infants, and then we went into a system that is not for self-expression. It's, you know, you have to learn this and this and this, right? So it's like we didn't have a chance right from the start to be able to have that learning the way that we needed to learn.
Or to even become learners. We don't even know how to be learners.
Become learner. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess go back to the beginning, like learning the alphabet, like he, you know, Kushner was suggesting. Learn the alphabet first and start there.
Well, I'm thinking this is a good question to ask Aphraar at the end. Let's ask Aphraar, how can I embrace what Kushner is saying in this passage for myself? How do you feel? Michael, how do you feel about that? Yeah? Yeah, okay. Because if we can embrace the way Aphraar is being, look at the kind of learner he is being, that he's so open to being. I actually listened to Jesus talking to Robert James Lees. I'm going to send that link to you for next week's recordings conversation. So where Jesus make a contrast to Robert James Lees, why was it a different experience between you and Aphraar after you passed? There's some contrast he makes for Robert to think about. Some really good points in there. But Aphraar is being quite the learner here. But even then, Kushner will say one question at a time. I really like that quote. So let's ask, well, how can I be like that? Because all you have to do is be like Aphraar and wanting to learn. Boy, I mean, the rest of it just took care of itself. He just swam through the rest of it. So how can we be like that? So we could ask. That would be a good question to ask. A lot of injuries here that is actually stopping us from even embracing the ways in which we are learning, the ways in which we have progress. We're not even open to seeing and celebrating that in ourselves in what we have done. Every single day, at the end of the day, I say to God, I didn't do enough today. I didn't feel enough. I didn't progress enough. I didn't work with stuff enough. God, how do you feel about it? This is where I feel. I'm complaining. Shucks, another day. Yeah, that wasn't a good one. every single day, this is how I feel about myself. So in this conversation, I'm thinking, yeah, it's a problem. That's gotta go. So, Selena.
Yeah, I can really relate to what you just said, because just this past week, I have finally got past my what's the point injury to actually going past that and challenging the things that I say, what's the point to? If
Wow.
there's no productive results. So like I've made a commitment to, I did some art, like the book was awesome,
Yep.
Seeking Wisdom. So I'm doing my art date once a week. I started writing like a story. I've started, like I'm writing my mom's story. It's just like unfolding in front of me like a movie. And I'm just writing it down. It's
Are
pretty
you
awesome.
comfortable sharing it yet?
No, not yet. Someday. Anyway, and I'm journaling in the morning when I wake up right away, and all of these things I've tried doing before, and somehow something's changed, something's shifted. Like I've got past that pushing down inspiration, because that's what I was taught as a child, that inspiration is pointless. Everything needs to have a productive end, or has to have some, even if you do something creative, it's got to be like a blanket you made for somebody, or like it has to have some, it can't just be because I want to.
Our grandmothers had to have been sisters. It's like,
Have to,
how did
what?
I end up sisters?
Oh.
Our ancestors were sisters somewhere.
Yeah.
Thinking that is so familiar.
Yeah, so that's been real, and it's been huge confronting that feeling. Huge.
Okay, good.
Like I buy art paper and I have a panic attack for 3 hours,
Yeah, good for you.
but I'm doing it anyway.
Good for you.
Oh, and and I looked into a death doula course and all these things that just keep popping up in my head, and I push them down and they pop up again, and then I push them down and then they pop up again and I push it down. Yeah, and I'm not pushing it down, and I'm just feeling the ickiness of going ahead and doing it.
Good for you. Thank you, Selena.
No.
Okay, Judith.
Yeah, I agree with what Michaela said about, like we were supposed to know things that we didn't know. And I had a kind of a volatile parent that would be very angry if we didn't know things. But one of the things I realized I didn't do is I didn't ask too when I was troubled or felt upset. I never talked to anybody about it. And I didn't feel I could talk to my parents or my teachers. And I realized, well, that's the problem. And even if I would have talked to them, would they have been providing anything positive anyway? So it kind of, listening to this, I'm realizing like we have to really, I avoid it, but we really have to talk to God. We really have to start forming that relationship.
Asking questions.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, like I felt like you were kind of almost blaming yourself, going, well, I didn't ask, that was my problem. And I want to go back to every 2-year-old ask 100 questions. Like you can't stop them. So something happened to you that you stopped asking.
Yeah.
And that's not your fault. But yeah, questions. Whew, yeah, that drives it. Thank you. Michael.
What occurred to me was I learned the alphabet, and then for parts of I begin to learn the alphabet, and then I want to use it, and I want to have some mastery, and I don't know if I take the time to really observe how it's used properly.
Yeah.
And then I'm learning by experience, which is really learning by mistakes. So and I'm supposed to be able to see, okay, I did this wrong, so I have to do it that way. So maybe I would have less discouragement and less impatience if I realized that learning is an orderly that this unfolding is an orderly process that God has ordained, and that if I'm missing a more basic step if I feel discouraged.
And let's look at how that got created. So for example, I'm passionate about being a doctor. And there's this feeling of let's get on top of it now. And then I start to think, because I wanted to learn to be a doctor God's way, which then attract beautiful teachers who will give me one lesson at a time. Guess who my guide is? And then he'll wait 200 years till I get it. So at some point I realized, you know what? It'll probably take me a couple of 100 years to be the doctor. That somebody there will say, now you got it. So I had to kind of go through this grief of I won't get to be the doctor I want while I'm on earth. And do I care enough about it to want to spend the rest of my life, hundreds of years, learning to do it properly, past my dad? Is that what excites me? So I'm slowly changing the time frame to hundreds of years, because we have this idea that whatever gift you have, you got to do it here, is useless after. When God is saying, we'll always need doctors. Krishna is a doctor. He's still working at it. So I think that's the pressure that we get. Like, I only have so many decades to apply what I've learned and then retire and die. And then it's useless after, and it's not. So those are some of my ideas. So that could be why we have this urgency of like, I got to be able to apply this now. Michaela?
I just, as I'm listening to you, all of you talking about your ideas here, I'm just recognizing in myself, I was so driven by getting that addictive feeling. Like if I learned something, if I was the best at something, if I was busy doing all these things, that was all that was driving me, was just that addictive feeling. There was no sense of, am I interested in it? Does this resonate with me? Does this help anybody? Yeah. And I can just, as I talk about, I can feel that drive and that desperate to just get that. Yeah. And so I wasn't even present to what I was learning.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, those addictions were created in the children. By the time we're 7, all these addictions are locked in. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was my way of getting attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael?
Yeah, I was like that too, Michaela. If you put 10 things in front of me, I would try to master all 10, but for the point of mastery, you know, of getting it. And that's my satisfaction and my reward is, oh, I can do that. I'm special.
Well, imagine you're 5 years old and you did something completely and fast. What did you get from your parents? What did you get from your kindergarten teacher?
Praise.
And would you have even been noticed otherwise? Some of us don't even exist until we did something, and then for just that 5 seconds we existed to our parents. Man, that's gonna be a hit. Like the dopamine rushing in there. Yeah, I can't blame myself for having that addiction. Like, come on. That's like oxygen. So yeah. Thank you. Selena.
What helped me start doing all these things was just letting go of that. Will this help somebody? Just if it does, or if it doesn't, that's okay. I'm inspired to do it. If it's fun and I like it, that's good enough for now. I have to let go of that whole, I can only do this if it benefits somebody. Yeah,
that's a beautiful way to do it. Yeah,
because that just doesn't, because then I don't do it. Well, that's pointless, right?
Yeah.
There's no point. This is my big obstacle. There's no point. So it's not serving me, or, you know, what am I going to get out of it other than a couple hours of distraction? Well, nothing, you know. Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And ultimately may serve somebody. I don't know. But when you're in your passion and desire, just have faith in that.
Your soul is beginning to get richer. It's beginning to have more substance as you express yourself.
Who knows what one step will go to, what that will create. So
absolutely.
Just keep going at it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything that creates more substance in your soul literally is growing bigger.
Yeah. I love that word, substance. It's one of my favorites. I like that word. Yeah.
Okay.
In relation to that, last week I remember we talked about, like, if you're in your passion, you are in service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'd be curious to see. Again, this is where I go, can you show me how? I put out a question. Like, I've already sent an instruction going, can you teach me how that works? So send out a desire going, can you build my faith in this concept that if you're in your passion, you are serving? Convince me, teach me, show me. And next thing you know, your guides will create this whole pathway of learning for the next few weeks and months to show you that. You basically say, can I have this course syllable, please? And somebody's listening. Somebody's saying she's interested in learning that. Let's go. And that's how a lot of my learnings happen. Yeah. I'll be like, can you sell this idea to me that this is true? It gets exciting. It gets very interesting when you do that. I've had, when we're doing a prayer experiment in summer, I was having a lot of like anxiety and doubts about what am I doing? Is this right? Is this wrong? Is this prayer stuff? Can you teach me? Can I learn more about prayers, please? And I attracted a book by Julia Cameron called Wisdom. And boy, that book is, it's like, she's my cousin. Like, I mean, I'm getting so much out of that book, but I remember having this desire of, can somebody teach me more about prayer, please? I'm just stepping on a cliff here trying to teach this stuff. Can I learn more? And a book came. And I was like, wow, thank you. That only took a couple of weeks. And it's responding to basically most of my doubts were wrong. I did somehow figure it out, or was guided to. So, during this discussion, start setting out your thought bubbles of things you wish to learn more about. It's a good way. And should we move on to the next part of the question? Michael has set up some beautiful discussion here. Go ahead, Michael.
Fred says he sees the difficulty in reaching people on Earth to correct their errors, and he asks Kushna if anything can be done. Yes, exclaims Kushna, love conquers death, and that one great law which governs and controls everything with us is also the means by which we may reach and save mankind. Sympathy, whether pure or impure, base or noble, holy or unholy, has a natural attraction for that which is like itself, and its power is not destroyed by the grave, as you have seen in the cause of our present mission. Love links soul with soul and has the power to bridge any gulf if it is only strong and true. And Kushna likens love to a telegraph wire that carries messages equally in both directions. Why shouldn't it be able to pierce the mists in both directions? Fred fudges and says, there are difficulties, but Kushna says, these are not insurmountable because they arise entirely from misconception. And he says, give us on the earth side a base of operation which would exist if the simple teachings of Jesus were followed, and the rest would be very easily accomplished. And sympathy sounded a lot like the law of attraction as I was reading that, but more emotional, less cerebral. And I like the image of a earth-side base, kind of like a moon base, giving the angels an earth base.
So let's talk about the sympathy thing. Where does it take everybody when you think about sympathy, including the things that freaks me out about it? It's like, oh boy, it can also point to scary stuff. Michael.
I think it's appearing to me as a magnetic, something that draws things together. It doesn't have to be pure, but like attracts like, and it sets the environment or the situation or the conditions for other things to happen. And so that's why love can be put into action when sympathy has created a commingling.
Right. Yeah. And I feel when I think about it, I feel like it's as scientific and tangible as any other of God's laws that defines manifestation and reality.
And it's such an emotional word, but it's scientific. Surprises me.
God is the ultimate scientist. Michaela?
I thought it was sort of related to the law of rapport. And I know I've noticed in myself over the last year or so that as I started to choose to love myself and to have good thoughts for myself, I was able to receive good thoughts. Whereas when you're not even open to these concepts, you're not even able to receive them.
It amplifies it, which ends up helping you to kind of recognize what it is that you're vibing with,
Yeah.
assuming. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, what I was going to say earlier was I feel like the law of attraction is a result of the sympathy. I mean, again, this is way above my pay grade, but we can kind of throw some guesses that could be how it works. I feel like each of these concepts will take us hundreds of years to learn if that's our thing and you dedicate, a long time to it. Each of this will take that much time, and it makes sense that it would. Yeah, Selena.
Well, I feel like the way that they're using sympathy here is much like the attraction that dark spirit has with Aphraar's father. And he just has to, he's just with that guy and he can't help it and he doesn't know why and he can't stand the guy, but he's with him anyway. He's just like, that's a sympathy. Like they have the chemistry of it is just, it's irresistible. Because often we think of our spirits that are with us as being attracted to our addictions and wanting to manifest theirs through us, but not always the case. Sometimes, and 30 years among the dead, there's lots of that where they're like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a really good point. That's
know?
a really good point. Yeah.
So that's, to me, that's what it feels like, a sympathy, like a likening. And it's just pure chemical attraction. Yeah.
In the soul. Yeah.
In
Huh.
the soul. Yeah.
There's a lot here. I mean, I got so many questions coming out of me right now.
I know.
So
It's a big topic.
The whole syllabus coming down soon. But again, it'll take time for us to be educated in this concept, but you can at least say, can I learn more about that chapter? How does that work? But for me, what I'm feeling is my addiction for control is kicking in. I'm not in control. There's something in me that's creating his own sympathetic vibe and attracting whatever, and I don't want it, and where's my control? So I can feel my terrors coming up that I'm not in control. That's usually everything I do. I start with the problem layer, the freak out layer first, and then get under. Judith?
It does sound like the law of attraction, but I was also thinking about, when I think of the word sympathy, I think of it like of empathy. When you say you're sympathetic with someone, you empathize with them. And so I was kind of curious to know about that in this mix, like when you're empathetic towards somebody, like how we get help from people because they see us and maybe they have a sense of empathy for us that others might not have, or we have empathy for certain types of people. And help them.
Well, I'm thinking about our guides and how empathetic they are and compassionate they are with what we're going through and how we're selected, probably then based on that the guide that was chosen for me is the one that's going to have the most empathy for what I'm going through based on their nature and my injuries. So you know what? I can see how that works there. Yeah, because our guides are individuals. They have their own distinctive personalities. And then you got to wonder how they get assigned or why they get assigned to that particular person. And must be because of the empathy they're going to have, which then creates sympathetic attraction and flow. And wow, this is when I was studying electromagnetism and physics, I loved it. I was just fascinated by how that works. And here I'm going, well, this is the next layer of studying magnetism. Okay, let's move on. Anybody else do you have your question, your anxieties around this concept of sympathy, of sympathetic attraction? Where do you go in your fears or doubts? Jill?
So I kind of think about what I've done in this sympathetic attraction. Like if I've kept people and then I wonder, well, does this account, or does this apply to animals as well? Like, all of my past animals? Have I kept them from being in the animal kingdom, not having their,
Right.
like, and
Right.
that's, so the errors that I've done within this is kind of where I go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. And the next question is, if you are at this time having a particular sympathetic attraction or vibe, and you're going, yeah, I don't like that one, how do you get out of it? Because the idea is you can get out of it. You can release those emotions so that the attraction no longer exists. That will be where I want to go next with this conversation in myself, to look at what kind of sympathetic attractions I am putting out. And once I get over the shock and the tantrums, then I can go, how do I release this? Yeah, thank you. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the next.
Do you want to visit anything about this following Jesus's simple teachings and getting the earth side?
Okay, yeah, I would love to talk about that. Comments, ideas? Michaela?
I sort of related this to what you were saying before, Mila, about being a learner like Aphraar. And I think being a learner like Jesus, and just, basing it in love, truth, and humility, because if you're prepared to approach any concept like that, then you will get to the full understanding of it. And that just makes it seem really simple, like what they're saying, is that it will be simple once we're prepared to embrace these concepts and these ways of existing. It'll all just come through us without resistance.
Okay. So which of Jesus's teachings could we embrace so that we could be the agent on the earth side, the stations? What were they referring? What were they referring to? Do you feel? Virginia.
Whenever I think of the simplicity of Jesus's teachings, I always come back to the golden rule of treating others as you would want to be treated.
Yeah. So let's say you want to be more mediumistic, so that you could receive teachings, or so that these guides can use us for ways in which we can serve. How would you be treating others? What is it that you could, like for me, for example, when I see the earthbound spirits stuck in bad places, it just kicks in a lot of my empathy. I hate it. I hate to see people suffer. I hate to see them trapped. I'm very engaged in wanting to help them find a way for them to be liberated. That's something that, I guess is because I guess I would have wanted to be liberated, or I am being liberated through these teachings. I am receiving the gift of liberation. So I guess I'm treating them the way I would have wanted to be treated. That would be one. So Virginia, what about yourself? Is something about the realm of mediumship that you would like to serve in some ways?
Right now.
Let me guess one. If I could,
I had it, but I just right now doesn't feel right.
No, say it if you feel comfortable.
Being open and accepting.
Yeah. You like people to treat you that way?
Yes, being open and accepting to what others are trying to give sometimes as well, to not just dismiss, you know what I mean, just to be accepting and not dismissing others or what I'm getting myself. Also what I'm getting from my guides or other spirits.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
can be useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, being open, I can just imagine how much our guides would love that, to have mediums on earth that are open and accepting, so that they're even open to even receiving information without knowing what you're getting and what it's going to look like. At least receive it and then analyze it. So, because that's what Robert James Lee does. Like, he just start writing. I don't think he knows what he's writing. He just writes it down, but he's open. So that's definitely a beautiful quality. Yeah, I can see that being helpful. This is another one I feel, Virginia, that will resonate for you, which is, if only I had known this truth earlier. If only I had known that this was truth, right? How much would have I loved someone to give me that? And how much you would now love to give that to others? Could resonate for you. Yeah. Okay. Michael.
For me, it would be, I am beloved of God, and you are beloved of God, and
Wow.
everyone is beloved, and that's greatly loved. And even if I'm a bit besmirched and muddy, I'm still beloved, and everybody should be loved.
Yeah. Yeah. And you want that for them. So imagine if you're doing mediumship work, like that's the emotion coming out of you, that you want people to know that and to feel that. I can see spirit guides so easily can come through you. You can channel them. You can speak to spirits to help them get out of what they're stuck in. That's it's a beautiful fire. You never know, all these little concepts we have that we are so passionate about. It's like the very foundation of your moon station, basically. Your moon station is called You're God's Beloved, and is beaming out, and millions of people come to get help with that. And in Virginia is, if only you knew truth. And there's so many people going, oh my God, can somebody finally give us truth? How attractive is that? So you never know how valuable that little nugget is. Little nugget. Somebody's laughing at me. Little. Okay. We call it little. So that's a concept that you can explore more about. And that, because I can see from Michael's question, he's got a passion on how can I be this? How can I be this person that can be utilized by our guides, right? Yeah. So he's kind of inviting others to, like, come on, you can do that. Don't you want that? Let's be stations on the moon. Okay, let's move on to the next.
I have some background noise. Okay. Fred expresses a wish to have returned to Earth in the daylight. The darkness confuses him, he says. Another mistake, Krishna says with amusement. You are not yet able to grasp the full situation. Everything you see that is real is spiritual, but things are not quite so black as they naturally appear in contrast to the shadowless life you have grown accustomed to. There are signs of daybreak all around us, and there is no doubt that the sun is rising. Do you mean a spiritual sun? Asks Fred. Yes, proclaims Krishna, the sun of righteousness, which will chase away the night of selfishness, ignorance, bigotry, and superstition, and establish on earth peace and goodwill to man.
What does it bring up for you, Michael? You lead this one.
Well, the first thing it did, it pierced my impression of how life is right now. There's so much strife around us. And then it also, this idea of peace on earth and goodwill to man, I laugh at, I discount some of the Christmas sentiment, but here he's using it as something that's real.
Yeah.
So it makes me look for the light rather than the darkness. Look for the evidence of light rather than the darkness that seems to be all around.
Okay. See, when I read that phrase, I felt numb. And now that I look back at it, I'm going, I don't believe it. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. Good luck with that. So that tells me that that's my corrupt faith is like, yeah, sure. That's like you said, a nice Christmas team advertisement. There'll be righteousness. All right, you go on. Sure. Good for you. So I can feel like, oh, that's a lot of anger and disappointment, disillusionment in me. I can just feel like, yeah, we should keep wishing good things and sing kumbaya. Carry on. And I'm like, that's very angry. I'm very angry. That's where I'm at. How about others? When you read that statement, do you feel like saying, oh yeah, nice for you. I hope you succeed. Wishing you all the best. But do you believe it? Like Michael, something has happened to him there. He's like, this is real for me. Selena.
Well, I feel like he's saying it's already happening.
Yes, but how do you feel?
I kind of believe that.
Oh, good for you.
Well, I don't really see. So, like, we have so much media around us that shows us all what's so evil around us all the time.
Right.
You know, you can't look at media without hearing. So people at this time are not constantly blasted. So they could probably see more of what is good and where we're progressing than what we can. And yet statistically, even though there are more of us on the planet and there are more opportunities for problems, statistically, your chances are greater when you're born now than they've ever been of percentage-wise of living a pretty good life where you're sheltered, fed, clothed, not put into slavery or being in a war or whatever. Like our chances are improving, even though and that's apparently is. Sorry. Got to stop talking with my hands there. Apparently that's a real thing, and that gives me hope. That makes me feel like we're not going to hell in a handbasket necessarily. That there is some positive things are happening, and not all just based on religion either. You know, there's lots of people out there doing amazing things for the world, not based on that, just on their compulsion to be good, to create and be good and do something for the world. So
that's
I don't know. Maybe I'm I don't know, optimism. I don't know.
Well, in this particular issue, I'm just discovering my pessimism about it. I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just saying, oh, that's my starting layer right there. That's where I am. I'm just identifying where I start with this issue. That I have quite a bit of despair about this right now. I need to process. Yeah. Virginia?
When I read this, I do feel a lot of hope and faith that if there is something happening beyond, what's right in front of my face right now, because they can see the bigger picture. But then I think, well, this was written 100 years ago. So what's better now than it was then? Did we muck it up? Like, what has happened, like with our environment and everything? It's like, did humanity actually take a step backwards here, or are we actually progressing? And I kind of got stuck there thinking, what has really changed, and are we really? And should I even be assessing it, or just worry about improving myself and my own condition?
But the thing is to let the emotions get triggered. I didn't realize until now that I have emotions about that paragraph that I need to process. Because emotions are emotions, however they get processed or triggered. And so let yourself feel. Like you probably are feeling, I think we've taken a few steps back. Sorry, Krishna. I'm sorry you were disappointed. It's like, oh, there's the see, those emotions are moving now. So let those come out so that there's even room to assess. And then we can be with Selena and Michael where they're going, I can see the light. I can see it. So, but we have to get there emotionally, not cognitively. Yeah.
Okay.
Others? Jill.
So I'm with you on this one, that I have a lot of tantruming to do about it. Like, I wish God would just, it's funny to actually say it out loud, but I wish God would just wave his magic wand and fix everything, right? Why can't he do that? And but then I think on what Virginia said is like, I can see the good that's happened. Like I can see the light in my life, outside of my life, outside of my nice little bubble that's here, that I can see the good and I can see the light. Outside of that, it's like, it's so dark, and it's just, are we doing anything about it? Like, how could we do anything about it? Like,
So
how
despair
could
right
we?
there.
There's the despair. How could we stop the war in the Ukraine? How could we, stop homelessness, stop, hunger?
But then before it goes too many examples, just go, what's the feeling here? Like, that sounds like despair. What I'm really feeling is despair. Because remember, all the emotions are from your childhood or from your multi-generational issues. So don't let too many, at some point I go, wait, what's the feeling here? I'm feeling like this despair of like, there's no point. Okay. Because Selena, she has already worked through the feeling of, what's the point? She's come out the other side of that. That was dark. And so she's kind of now going, there's light. So we got to go through those places of despair, of hopelessness. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Was it Michaela first? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Michaela.
What I got from reading this message was this idea that we will be victorious, that it's a given, we will be.
Yeah.
And also, like, I think what Jill was starting to say, when you see the improvement in your own life, and for me, the developing the relationship with God and the truth of God and God's presence, I'm starting to believe that other people are going to get that too, because it's real. And I look at just this group with the prayer project, and it's like, wow, we are making a big difference just on our individual self. And so that's what makes me feel excited about it, is seeing that we can do it and people are starting to do it.
Yeah. But don't bypass the opportunity to trigger some emotions while you're at it. Let's get them out. Because whatever you're faithing, you're going to act on it. So if my faith is, what's the point in despair about the world condition, I'm not going to act on it. I mean, I'm acting on that. So I'm in harmony with that lie. But I also need to take the opportunity to process, because both my parents were conceived during war times. There's a lot of despair that I got to work through, being the firstborn. Thank you. Judith?
Yeah, I liked what Selena said about like the environment, and Michael, with the incredible amount of negativity that's really going on, and it's really perpetuated by the media. If you ever watch the news shows, I know people that watch like Fox News obsessively, and
That's sympathetic attraction right there.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just fear, horrible, and it keeps us in such a compressed and dark place, and everyone we're blaming each other for everything. We're in all this fear, and it's just awful. But this sentence kind of makes me feel like there's that it isn't supposed to be like this. It's actually much better. And it also, we talk about us being physical here and having this experience, and spirits having the same kind of experience. And a few years back, I did kind of, I had like an incident where I felt my great grandmother come to talk to me. And so I typed it down, and then my uncle came and visited me too. And at the end of this little talk, he's like, oh, I want to go right now because the sun is shining, and it so infrequently shines here. And like during that talk, something had happened to where his land brightened for some reason.
And he couldn't handle it.
Well, he couldn't handle it.
wasn't-
He wanted to leave me. He didn't want to talk anymore. He wanted to experience feeling the sun.
Experience it. Well,
Yeah.
he definitely, I mean, he connected to you, he connected to his guides, some
Yeah.
love entered him, like it was instantaneous. Like, how wonderful is that?
Yeah, because you think you're in this
Yeah.
horrible place, but as it says in the story, in the book, it's like it isn't dark. You're missing it. It's actually bright.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Wow. I mean, I can feel the power of what Krishna is saying. Like he is saying, like Michaela said, this is done. This is happening. I can feel the force of that as in it's non-negotiable. Like I accept it going, yeah, that's gonna happen. But at the same time, when it comes to my involvement, I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. I wish you success. And I step away from it emotionally. It's just making me going, what happened here? Why aren't I jumping on that bandwagon? What's the emotion here I need to release? So you always want to detect, again, it's a sympathetic attraction. I'm not attracted to what he's saying, but I know he's right and he's going to win. But I see it happening in the spirit, in my current fate. I see the victory happening in the spirit realms, not on earth. That's my current layer of despair about it. We're probably just going to mess up and then be helped after we die. It will happen. That will succeed. That's my current level of faith. So something I need to feel about. So shall we ask Aphraar the question? So the question I want to ask, unless somebody has something else you'd rather ask based on all the excitements we've had in this conversation. The question was, Aphraar, how can I embrace what Krishna is saying in the passage about learning alphabet and being patient with the rest of the process? Or something like that. Or we can say, Aphraar, how can I be a learner like you are? How can I be like you? That could be another one to ask. All right, we'll be back. Okay. I forgot to pause recording, so it's just a blank screen for like 5 minutes. All right. So, who wants to start? Michael.
So if you walk into a big office building, like on New York, there's this revolving door. It's kind of like a gerbil cage wheel, but it's you enter and you have to wait for the opening to pass in front of you. Then you step into it and you keep walking and you go through to the other side. So that's what I saw. It's how can I be a learner like you? How can I embrace the opportunity to learn? It seems like learning opportunities are continually spinning like an open window, something in a circle of like waiting for me to step onto it, step into it, something that I have maybe sympathy for. And there are other things. Those are learning opportunities. Don't feel bad about how low I am or how much of a beginner or how far back I am. Just step forward, grab the opportunity that is presented. And then playing on what you've been saying, it was feel the emotion. So I'm feeling some feelings. So they said, feel the emotion of being left behind, of being stupid or dumb, of being looked down on. And then they said, the gains you make will be real, or the gains that are real, you won't have to relearn. So you don't have to worry about, because I like to drill things in my head so I get them. But
Yeah.
if I really learn them, I won't have to. And then what you had said earlier about being humble, desiring truth, and love being the
Michaela.
greatest.
That was Michaela. Yeah.
Love being the greatest law that makes everything else happen. So then act, going back to the beginning of the chapter, act on the piece of the alphabet that I've been given, not the entire alphabet, just the part there. Don't covet those who can do more, and don't look down on those who are behind. And I thought I'd bounce back to last week. I said the spirit of Aphraar. So I said, like Aphraar, but it felt like Krishna, because I'd had a twinge of like when you've referred to Krishna as being your teacher, and I'm a little envious of that, of not having such a nice pure desire. And then it just felt like Krishna. So that's why I'm a little teary.
Yeah, I have an interesting when it comes to Krishna. I had a desire to learn medicine, and somebody had said to me, he gave me one question, work on that question and nothing more. And then a couple of years later, I discovered the books, and as I'm reading the books, I'm freaking out about Krishna, going, oh my God, who's this guy? I want to be like him. And then I start to freak out that who do I think I am to talk to Krishna? He doesn't know I exist. Don't bother him. You're wasting his time. So I spent years freaking out about even asking Krishna one question. Finally asked him one question, and I go, wait a minute, you've been talking to me for years already. Like, so there's still the feeling of like, who am I talking to? And last week I was doing mediumship, and there was this young child who had passed from cancer, and I'm trying to I always introduce myself as a doctor in training, because that is the truth. And as I'm looking at her and trying to work out what's going on for her, what does she need, I felt Umbra came, and I went, I gotta go now. I was like out of there so fast, Gwen. I can't. No. Umbra is not on my level. I can barely handle Coach now. I see Umbra or sense Umbra is around, I'm out, because he's way up there for me. So it's this weird thing we have around all these guides that we have. And then I'm thinking, well, my guide's a sister spirit. I'm pretty relaxed with her. What's the difference? So, you still have to work through the feelings. about certain people. Yeah. So your soul sympathetic is already open to Krishna, and then you have to mentally work out the freak out. If that's helping. Thank you. That's I like the message she got, that whatever alphabet you've learned, act on it. You don't have to feel like you need more to act on it. I think that's an important message. Thank you. And also the idea of you choosing to step onto the revolver door opening as a choice. Wow, thank you. Who's next? Jill.
So I kind of got to use the book as an example. So like what Aphraar has gone through. So when he arrived in the spirit world, he knew nothing. Right?
Yeah.
He didn't even know that an alphabet existed. So, and then, but the number one thing that he instantly started to do was ask questions. And he also listened. And I think that's the part that I know I miss. So he also had, like, as soon as he got there and learned just one or two things, he immediately had his number one desire of to tell Earth about the spirit world.
Yeah.
And that propelled him through everything else.
That's it. One desire.
It was
that's it.
Just the single desire. And that brought people to him. It brought knowledge to him. It brought everything to him. And it using the book as that example. So what I got was ask questions, be curious, seek out knowledge, and listen.
Okay.
That's what I got from that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Mikhail?
So what I got was that I ask questions and I'm curious and all that thing, but where my block lies is in that I don't believe in the tangible nature of the support that is provided to us to give us answers to these questions.
Perfect.
And what I'm really kind of working on at the moment as I'm doing my, like, looking back at my childhood, is wanting to understand from God how God was there, because I really believe that he wasn't there. And so I'm starting to see more around what was really going on and how the presence was there. And one thing that Aphraar said with jest was that I really want to believe that I'm not surrounded by a whole team of helpers, teachers, supporters, nurses. And I really want to believe that I'm not.
Got it. That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. And to kind of, I mean, you'll be able to work with that anger. Why don't I want to believe? Why don't I want to give up that God was there? I haven't finished processing that myself. Yeah. That's a good one. Thank you. Okay. Who's next? Selena.
Yeah, well, so I got this. The instruction was to feel your desires, your soul's desires, and the action, and then what happens when you do. So it's like a cone, like around me, like a light.
Wow.
That keeps filling with light. It's like the Holy Spirit keeps filling with light as you stay in your desires, and it just swirls and swirls, and then it just finally just gets too big for the container and it just explodes out, and it just can't help but affect others. And the whole point of being in that is to build that is about not being affected by other people, like not in terms of your desire, not allowing that to be your focus or this is you, this is all you, this container is all you, it's all you. And this is how the Holy Spirit comes in, and it just has to eventually just explode and just kind of like dump all over everybody.
So you got the answer to your question on why, when you act in your passion, you're serving.
Yeah, exactly. And it's part of the learning.
Wow.
Like you're learning, but you're just growing that you're the light of the Holy Spirit in you. Like it's like it goes, so this great, beautiful picture, this cone like this around that you're filling up. You're filling it up, filling it up, filling it up until it just has to burst open and get bigger and leak out onto everybody.
I love it.
It was beautiful. Yeah, beautiful
we
vision.
we have to. Virginia and I close to her. We'll just go pretend we're tanning. We're tanning on the light. Selena B, we're here.
Go in the light. Yeah, it's so cool.
Thank you. Judith?
I wasn't getting that much. I wasn't really feeling anything, but it's interesting because when everyone talks here, there isn't something that isn't resonating with me from what people,
Awesome.
what I find so
Okay.
interesting about this group. But I did get some stuff, and it was to put myself in a position to just relax and feel love, to feel weightless,
Yeah.
to just, you know, because there's
Okay.
so much, you know, tension and doubt, and it's like, just relax, you know.
That's brilliant, Judith.
And then just like go to nature, do some, but relax, and also to feel the faith about myself. And then
Okay.
I'm going to have to explore every doubt. So which
Yes.
is sad. I have lots of doubts. So everyone I'm going to have to examine.
Yes.
And I like what Michaela said about like being a child, because I've been, you know, upset at God. Like, where were you? Why didn't you help me? And why does God not help children? And why can't we get some sort of truth as a child? And I'm still trying to work through that.
And I like what Michaela pointed out, because I have, in the point of my resistance, being here earthbound, I feel that my guide support is very ethereal. I don't see it as something that's tangible.
Yeah, I
and
don't.
substantial.
I don't.
It's just
either.
nice wispy feelings.
Yeah, I have that doubt too, because I just came across a video with Jesus, and he said, you know, we all have like 50 people, literally 50 people around each of us that are waiting to help us. And
Judith, I think the advice you got was literally the how to. What you want to learn is already out there. What they want to teach is already in here. Now, in order for you to become the revolving door, where things can start to move, you literally got to relax. Like, do what they say literally.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, the plug hole is released and off you go. That's very important advice. Like, we're all getting the crucial one piece we need right now. Yeah, the only thing we need. It's big. Thank you. Virginia, have you gone yet? Okay.
It kind of just took me back to what I had said earlier about being open and accepting. And I noticed, well, what I saw is that sometimes there's people in my life that as soon as I feel any anger from them, and maybe they're just not wanting to feel their anger, so they feel like that a lot, that they're angry, that I dismiss them and I won't hear truth from them. And I'm judging and not listening.
Okay.
Because I could be getting truth there. Maybe it's not coming in the most loving way because of their own condition.
Yeah.
But that there's still learning there for me.
Or maybe it's to trigger the emotion, because there's a law of attraction event to trigger emotion, which would then make you a better channel.
Yeah. And I just, and I noticed and I kind of felt it, what I saw happening is that like I just shut down as soon as I start feeling any of that anger from people.
I attack them. I'm learning to not attack people for being angry with me.
I just like shut down and I numb out, so that even if they are saying anything that where I could be learning from them, or there could be learning there, and I'm not getting it. And so it perpetuates it happening over and over again.
Well, what I've learned is that at some point we have to become open all the time. But if I shut down towards some things and people and shut myself down, then I'm going to have the same projection of fear towards God. So I'm not open to God in the same way. So if people can trigger my fear of being judged, being criticized, being put down, and release it, then I will not shut down God in anticipation that God will also put me down. It's the same wall that will come up towards God as well and towards truth. So even if what these people are saying is not truth, the fact that I shut down towards certain emotions means I'm also shutting God down in anticipation of that emotion.
I didn't. Yeah.
So I
That
have
makes
to
sense.
train myself first to not react. I'm just at the point of do not react when people are mad at you. And then I'm going, how do you process people's anger? So now I'm in the process of learning how to stay open and process the anger. That's my next phase, because the point is the constant openness is where the flow is constantly coming in. But I'm filtering God's love towards me in anticipation of certain emotion that I don't want to feel, which other people are triggering. That's why. Thanks. Okay. So for myself, what I got was I do not see or understand or feel how much God loves to teach me, loves to emphasize. God loves to teach me. But every time I ask a question, they showed how I feel, where I feel guilty and bad. I'm so sorry. I'm asking this question. Please don't mind me for asking. I hope it's okay that you can teach me this. I had this anticipation of I've done something wrong in asking. So I'll ask because I want to know what I want to know. But then I shut down in how bad I feel for doing that. And what they want me to switch to is to see the joy God has in teaching. And that I was designed to learn and discover for eternity. I'm designed to learn. So yeah, and that I actually feel ashamed for asking questions. So these are emotions I need to release. So that was the idea that God delights in teaching me. It's kind of shocking for me right now. I'm a little bit of shock going, oh, I didn't even realize that. And it didn't even cross my mind that God loves to teach me, and it will change my relationship to God. Somebody loves to teach me, and that I was designed to learn. It's how my soul was designed. It's in my DNA. So that'll change some things for me as I go forward. All right. This is an incredible set of questions, Michael, and everyone participation. This is incredible.